The Beatles, From Kenwood to Kinfauns, The Lost Press Conference Collection, written by Geoffrey Giuliano, narrated by Geoffrey Giuliano.
It all seems like a dream now. Four turned-on musical messiahs from the north of England sweeping up the youthful hopes of an entire generation on the magical crest of a wave still largely undiminished in force after 3 decades. The Beatles were without question the single greatest power in popular music we have seen. But beyond that, they helped suggest to many the hidden creative potential buried deep within themselves. For any work as broad and appealing as that accomplished by the Beatles, a little intensified investigation is justified. So much more so as the years roll along, with the measured, heavy thud of the showy and shallow 90s replacing the tribal drumbeat of the magical 60s. If the Beatles were the harbingers of a new, more enlightened era, based on the user-friendly concepts of love, peace, and the quest for enlightenment, then the current crop of potentate pop stars sing in a far more cynical, decidedly less sincere age of personal prestige and gross materialism. That's not to say that this second-generation music business is bad. It's just that it isn't nearly as fulfilling as the groundbreaking territory covered by the Beatles and company. And it isn't nearly as much fun either, which is why so many of us who were there seem content to look longingly over our shoulders. It is the reason the Beatles are still important and should not be forgotten. Finally, it is the reason I put together this CD. Those who dedicate themselves to gathering up the remaining pieces of the artistic jigsaw left by the group do a service far beyond mere souvenir collecting. Imagine if someone had been around to dog the likes of Beethoven, Einstein, Gandhi, Picasso, or Hemingway in the same exacting, unedited way. Like veteran hippie A.J. Weberman plowing through Bob Dylan's garbage, searching for remnants of the great poet's loose change, these cultural detectives help preserve a side of our heroes which would otherwise remain unseen and forgotten. This CD, Beatlemania, seeks to contribute to the admirable chore of providing an oral document of the Beatles' great work. Here you will find the very best of the Fab Four's collective press conferences. These valuable icons of the fabulous Beatles years tell a story much deeper than the meteoric rise to superstardom of John Lennon, Paul McCartney, George Harrison, and Ringo Starr. Remember, man, Lennon once told me, the Beatles really were just the music. So many years later, this is all we have left, remarkably untarnished and every bit as vital as ever. Today, as I listen to this collection, I hear a whole hell of a lot more than the swirling emptiness of yeah, Beatlemania. Here is my youth, my crazy hippie-yippie days, my destitute college years, my early life as an actor on the dinner theater circuit, my marriage and the birth of our 4 kids, the death of my parents and the sad passing of my elder brother Bob in 1990 from AIDS. In other words, my life. I suspect it's the same for many of you, too. One wonders what life in our time might have been without the energetic presence of the Beatles. Still, as wonderful as they were, the Fabs as a phenomena belong now chiefly to the past. But it is a friendly past that at least some of us today can still happily share. As for those who missed that first great thunder of Beatlemania, it is to you I dedicate this compact disc. Here's hoping you're as touched and inspired by the Beatles' marvelous homemade melodies and hip philosophy as we were. Now that Beatlemania begins to move towards its 4th energetic decade, it is clear that the Beatles as an historical phenomena will be with us for a long, long time, their great work garnering an even deeper, more esteemed presence in our lives. Forget what you hear people say about artists owing a debt to the public. As far as the Fabs are concerned, any such obligation was honored long ago and has now turned itself squarely around. It is we who owe them. And now the most celebrated of all Beatles press conferences, their very first on American soil, held in New York circa 1964.
Plenty of bull that you Sample complete. Ready to continue?